Welcome back to Race Control. We are now just over 24 hours from the restart in The Hague and just under 24 hours from the finish line of this Volvo Ocean Race in Gothenburg. Over the last 8 hours, the fleet has been straight line reaching towards the tip of Denmark. Team Vestas made one covering jibe in a shift to cover a CA. But the really tight battle now is between Dongfeng race team, Team Brunel, and Mapfre, as they're all within 2 miles headed towards the possible park up tonight. I'm joined now by Mark Chisnell. Thank you for joining us, Mark. Racing navigator and writer of a weekly race blog for B&G. We also have on the line Francisco Vignale, onboard reporter of Mapfre. Hopefully we're getting communication with Fran now. You can see the team is quite busy. They're doing a sail change. But Fran, can you hear us?
Yeah. How are you? How is everything?
We're doing well. We're very excited to greet you guys in tomorrow to Gothenburg. But let's talk quickly about what happened yesterday after the start. It looked like you guys were trying to take the inshore track and changed your mind, essentially. What did happen?
I can't answer that.
Fair enough. Okay. So I might ask about what happened afterwards, but it sounds like you're not going to answer that as well. Let's talk then about what's currently happening. How tight is this race between you, Brunel, and Dongfeng race team?
Of course, yeah. It's we have Brunel just really close from us, as well as Dongfeng. Wind is just dropping right now, so we're doing a sail change from fractional to masthead. You can see the guys doing the drop of the fractional, and yeah, it's we can see both, and it's quite tight. You know, you have to push a lot in this moment.
When you say quite tight, how close are they? Can you see them in vision?
Yeah. Both are in vision, and yeah, it is. We are looking at each other all the time.
Okay. Second question: how much are you guys talking about the scores? What tonight might mean for you on the overall race scores?
Yeah, of course. We are the time about that. You know, suppositions and things that we are expecting, but now the best thing to do is push a lot and wait for the best result for us. You know, we only can expect the best from us and wait for mistakes from other ones. But now we are giving the best of us, and yes, I told you, this is very tight, and you never know what's going to happen. You know, I know in north of Denmark will be a Parkinio, will be very light wind, and anything can happen there. As Jean-Luc says, it's a casino or a national lottery that could be for anyone. So when those things happen, you never know what's going to happen until you cross those moments.
Do you guys have any sort of superstitions when you're going into a night like tonight where you have, as you said, weather that's sort of luck of the draw?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Superstitions about what?
When you go into a night like tonight where the weather could be luck of the draw, do any of you have any superstitions about that? Just racing as always?
No. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I don't think these guys are very superstitious. You know, they just deal with what is happening, and that's the best thing to do. You know, but of course, you know, if you want to cross your fingers to make it better, cross them and go for it. But I don't think it's a lot of superstition going on.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Fran. Best of luck to you guys tonight. We now have Mark Chisnall on the line. Mark, very interesting that he won't address what happened yesterday. Can you talk to us about what you think happened with Mapfre?
Well, everybody had choices, and those choices were pretty complicated due to the exclusion zones that are set up off the coast of Germany and Holland. And I think that when you add in the fact there were basically 3 lanes out north, and we had 1 or more boats go through each of the 3 lanes. We had Team Vestas and Team SDA stick to the east, and then Team Alvimedica all the way to the west, and everybody else went through the middle. And when you add in the points situation for everybody, they're not only trying to balance which is the fastest route on the weather, but they're trying to cover a multiple group of boats, because obviously there's a lot of boats in play for these second 2 podium places. And I think they possibly just got their knickers in a twist a little bit over what was more important, the weather or the cover.
Exactly.
And in the end, they stuck with the competition and went through that middle route. We can see that it's a very good picture right there. You can see the guys going right around the outside is Team Alvimedica, through the middle there, the big bunch, and then Team Vestas and Team SCA all the way to the east.
And essentially,
in the end,
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, in the end, it hasn't made a great deal of difference. I mean, Team Alvimedica has stepped out a little bit from the lead they had out of The Hague, but we're talking about 5 or 10 miles, not 20 or 30. So it's still very much in play, given that, as everybody's pointed out, the situation tonight is what you'd call fluid at best.
Well, let's talk about the scores, though. I mean, it basically is how Mapfre does tonight could determine the podium, could determine them in 5th overall. If it stays as they currently are, with them in 4th place on this leg, then they will lose to Alvimedica, and they will be in 5th place on the overall standings. If they move up in any point in time, then they will possibly finish 3rd. That would have them tied with Alvimedica, which has them sitting on a tie break. Here we go, the actual scores. Thanks, guys. Sitting on a tie break, which is all determined by the import series. But if they get in 3rd and Brunel stays behind them and Dongfeng race team stays ahead, then it means those 2 teams are tied as well. Also, if by any chance they pass both Brunel and Dongfeng race team, they end up in 2nd, then they could be tied on the podium with Dongfeng race team and be 3rd. So this is the import series standings as well. You can see how close they are for the imports, but overall, it's basically all between those 3 boats tonight and everything to play for the podium, the final podium positions. How much stress does that put on the sailors and the navigators especially?
Well, massive stress, especially I think when you look at the weather situation, where you've got this low pressure moving in over the top of the fleet tonight. They've been riding on the southerly on the front edge of it for a while. They're expecting the frontal transition to a westerly, and then as they move up, because they're moving into its path, eventually they'll move, the center of the low will move across them, and the wind will just disappear for them, unless they can outrun it and stay with the low pressure system and edge their way all the way to Gothenburg. But you know, the way I see it, they're probably going to end up on that top edge of the low there, in facing headwinds, facing easterly headwinds, and beating the final miles to Gothenburg. And there could well be an extended period of light air in there too. So there's an awful lot to play for. I mean, it would be fantastic for the spectators if it comes down to the import race to split the ties over the next weekend. But I'm sure most of those guys would much rather put it away tonight. And that's going to mean an awful lot of stress.
Do you think Team Alvimedica has enough of a lead to be able to hold the lead and take their first offshore leg win tonight?
if you were racing a 50-mile coastal race and you had a 10-mile plus lead going into this kind of distance to the finish, you'd be so comfortable. You know, you'd be just totally chilled. We've got this tied up, guys. However, it's not about that, is it? About 9 or 10 months of racing. It's a first leg win. It's a podium place overall. When you add all those extra pressures on, I'm sure they'd much rather have 50 miles. But if you dial it back to a normal yacht racing circumstances and say 10 miles in this situation, yeah, that should be fine.
Well, here's onboard Team Alvimedica Kiwi Dave Sweet getting a little philosophical about the race end.
As you say, we're getting a little bit down to the wire, but we've still got over 300 miles to go. And I think we're just enjoying it as much as we can as a group. We've come a long way. Sailed around the world, which pretty much says it all. And we're all still friends, so we're just enjoying it. And, you know, we're sailing to 100%, doing as best as we can. And whatever happens will happen. We've got a little bit of a lead, and obviously we left with a bit of a lead and some expectations to win this leg, but the reality is at the mercy of a bit of a weather system here. So we're just trying to push and stay relaxed, and I'm sure we'll be a bit nervy when there's 10 miles to go and there's a boat on the horizon, so we'll see how we go then.
Oh, the morning's been quite cold, but it's been pretty good. We've had good breeze. Hopefully we've kept the breeze and our competitors have not been in better wind than us. But we don't really know. They're not on AIS, so we don't really have a judge on how we're going. But I think in terms of how we were placed in the last skid, we'd say things are probably pretty even.
This next skid will be a bit more telling. It's the other guys are still weaving their way through the TSS zones, but we're into the open water and have decent pressure and decent shifts and making our way toward the northern side of Denmark.
They do seem a little bit more confident, as Mark said, than perhaps they should be knowing the weather tonight. But we've got second place team now, Dongfeng race team, with the Swede on board, Martin Stromberg, on the phone. And we know he sent in earlier what a tricky night it might be. Martin, talk to us about what you guys are expecting tonight and how close that battle could be for you.
I mean, all this day we have had a tough day because we had two boats behind here, Mapfre and Brunel, who's been catching in on us all the time. So it's been a tough day for us, and we really don't like when other boats go faster than us. So we've been working quite hard to keep the pace, and I think now we're on the same pace and maybe a little bit faster at the moment. So it's a good note.
But when you're going into a transition like tonight and you know the breeze is going to die, how do you think about covering the boats behind you, or what are your strategies going forward?
It's going to be quite tricky here with covering the other boats with the lighter wind we expect overnight here, but we're going to do what we can, and we have I guess we have Denmark as one side of the track. We can't and no one can go inside there, so it's
Oh, sorry. We just lost your audio a little bit at the end there. But we also have on the line Mark Chisnell. Mark, do you have any questions for Martin?
I think the question I would have is to what extent are they going to try and cover, and to what extent are they going to sail their own race?
I think we're going to do a little bit of both. I mean, we need to have Mapfre within reach, so we keep our third position. I think it's hard for us to gain the second position overall in the race. So I think we're going to have an eye out for Mapfre, but otherwise I think we're going to sail our own race as well.
Okay, final question. You're heading to your home country, Sweden. How much are you excited for that, and how much does that mean you have local knowledge that could help your team in the final miles?
Yeah, I mean, we've been on a journey for 9 months. It's a long journey, and it's really exciting to finish in your own home port. It's really cool. So I'm really excited for that. And I hope some of my local knowledge in the end is going to help us. It's going to be quite tight in the end, quite narrow to go into the finish line in Gothenburg. So hopefully it doesn't come down to that. But I will do anything I can with local knowledge in the end.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, Martin. Best of luck to you guys overnight. Now, Mark, let's give a quick recap about what we're expecting for the weather overnight. Can you talk us through it?
Okay, so we have a low pressure system inbound headed for the fleet. It's coming from the coast of Scotland, moving across the North Sea. They are currently in a southerly wind on the front of it, and that will shift to a westerly once the front approaches them. You can see the southerly crossing the boats there and the westerly just behind them. As it moves towards them, they should pick up a decent westerly strength for a while, but you can see that central zone of the low pressure where there's really very little wind, and that's going to move eastbound over Denmark. It's headed for Sweden for some time tomorrow, and it will kill the wind overnight. They've got to cross through that area of light winds to get to the breeze on the other side of the low pressure, and that's a headwind. That's coming from the east. So we're effectively expecting a wind shift through 270 degrees with an area in the middle, a time in that period in the middle with no breeze at all. That would be a reasonable estimation. If they can stay in front of that low pressure system, they could ride the southerly the whole way home. But looking at the forecast at the moment, I think that's unlikely. I think we could see a really big transition. So 270-degree wind shift and a period with light and variable in the middle. It's an awful big ask for the last night of a very long race.
Of course it is going to be one of the trickiest nights, if not the trickiest night of the Volvo Ocean Race on the very last night. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. And thank you guys online as well. Current ETAs for tomorrow are about midday, but as we say, we're not quite sure how long this park up will be. Today is summer solstice, but we know it's going to be a very long night for the fleet out there. They're less than 150 miles, but it'll be a long way to go. We'll leave you now with Brian Carlin on board Team Vestas Wind saying goodbye to Al's Diner.
Farewell to the diner. She's been out of action for a while, but we've decided to close her down tomorrow the 22nd because customers are lacking massively. But she's going to go for sale because there's only 7 of these in the world for about €7,500. It's yours. All inquiries goes to chrisnicholson@hotmail.com. He'd be very happy to get your emails. Send them all in. But that's it from Al's Diner. You'll have to come back in 2017 to see if she's back in alive and kicking again. Just took a couple of little mods, just the 2 brush holders. We got SCA pink mugs just because we like the girls. Well, that's pretty much it. Everything else, she's the original diner since the reef. But that's it, I'm afraid. She's only open for 24 hours and...
Can I put in a last order?
You can put in a last order. What do you want?
Cappuccino, please. I'll do the takeaway. I'll take it on the bow.
We'll take it on the bow?
Yes. Okay. Do the delivery because I actually need to get up there now.
Okay. I'll take the camera. I'll do the delivery. 5 minutes.
Thanks, Al.
Yeah, no worries.